Primal Fear has a brand new album coming out in September 2025, September 5th, on Reigning Phoenix Music. I have a lot to say about this. For those of you that follow the show or don't follow the show, just want to remind you there is an interview I just did with Ralf Scheepers. And I'll get into Ralf in the interview in a little bit. And I just want to briefly touch on Primal Fear before I get into the album. Folks, this show started in the late 90s. One of the bands that has been with me and the show, and I basically grew up with, as far as their music is concerned, is Primal Fear. Their first album came out right around the time I was starting my radio show, which is what the Metal Command originally was. And Ralf was one of the first people he was one of the people in that first year that came on my show. And over the years, I've interviewed various people from the band, either him or Matt, but Ralf has come on the show multiple times. But Primal Fear's music has been with me for all this time. And you know what else about Primal Fear has always been with me? It's the fact that they've never disappointed me as a music fan. And I can honestly say that. I have never heard an album by them that was bad. Every single record they have put out, you have great songs. The albums always sound great. There's a lot of catchiness, and the musicianship is amazing. Ralf has also never really lost anything in his voice. I'm going to talk about that later in the segment. But they've always been an incredible band despite the lineup changes. And, I had full confidence they were still going to make an incredible album, even after they had this little lineup shakedown that happened, with a bunch of people leaving the band at the same time. If you want to know more about that, I'm not going to really talk about it here, but it definitely is in the interview with Ralf Scheepers, which will be in the show notes. So this is a band I've grown up with. I first heard of Ralf Scheepers, singing with Gamma Ray. My first time ever hearing him sing. The first album I bought that he sang on was Sigh No More by Gamma Ray. The first album I heard him sing on, I didn't know it was him singing the backing vocals, but it was actually the Scanner album Hypertrace. I didn't know he sang on it until I looked in the credits and saw that Ralf Scheepers did some backing vocals. And I think there's an interview with Axel from Scanner where we talked about that. Anyhow, the bottom line is this is a band that has been incredibly consistent. And they've always put out a great record every single time. Now, before I get into the album, let me talk about Ralf for a minute. The interview was very good. Actually, every interview I've ever done with Ralf has been great. But the one thing about Ralf, compared to a lot of other people that I've interviewed, and Ralf is always, like, when you talk to him, you feel better. Like if you're in a bad mood and you just sat and, BS'd with Ralf for a little while, you would just feel better. He has that kind of aura about him where it's just, you come back in a much happier mood hanging out with him, and talking to him. He just has that kind of mood. And I think if you ever follow him on social media, he does talk a lot about positivity, and he's just a very good soul, as a person. And you could tell that when you talk to him and you get to know him. And that's one of the things I took away from it. And then if you listen to the interview, he said something to me that I was not expecting him to say. And it was something he said about me personally, and that he thought that I am a very well-grounded person, and that I, and this is something a few of you have written me, a few of you that have watched the interview have sent me messages about. I'm a well-grounded grounded person, and I really have the best way to probably put it, I really have a good viewpoint on things. Now, and a really good understanding of how things work in bands and music and stuff like that. So I think, number one, for people that want to know that, why that is, I've been a publicist before. I'm friends with a few bands. There are bands that I've known, like bands like Halloween and Jag Panzer, and in some of these bands, I've known a lot of these bands for years, and I've been friends with them, and I've even worked for some of them. Not Jag Panzer, but I have worked for some of these people. So I think that, and the fact I've been a musician, I've just done a lot of. The only thing I haven't done is I haven't been like a promoter or a tour manager or a booking agent or anything like that. But the other stuff I have, and I think that's what gives me a very good understanding when you have like crazy lineup changes, for example, and you saw me comment on the Primal Fear lineup change. So that was something I wasn't expecting him to say. It's kind of like, if you look at the interview with Nefarious, Rick Hunolt, the former Exodus guitar player that was in Exodus at one point, said he didn't see I was scripted. Nobody's ever really noticed that before. Because I'm really not scripted at all. So, but those are compliments that I was kind of shocked he said it to me, to be honest, but I did appreciate that a lot. But I've always had a lot of respect for Ralf in so many ways. And his performance has always been strong in anything he's ever done, even going all the way back to when he was singing with the band Tyrant Pace. Just an incredible singer, incredible dude. The interview's down there, and I'll play a couple clips here in this segment. So let's get into the album, Domination. The previous album was Code Red. Very good record, by the way. But we have this new album, Domination, which comes out in September. So the biggest thing is, people will always ask, what is the biggest difference between this new album, Domination, and the previous one, Code Red? And I would say the biggest difference is that Domination, it doesn't have as much aggressiveness as, say, Code Red did, but the choruses and the songs, I think, are a lot catchier. If you look at the two singles, Far Away and The Hunter, they have very, very catchy choruses. And we talked about a lot of these songs. In fact, I would say almost every song on this album would make for a great single to represent the album. And that is actually something we talked about in our interview. Ralf and I talked about. Check out this clip. This is from the interview we just did. Here you go.
One of the, I haven't said this yet, but one of the best aspects of this record, and the reason that I said the singles that you put out are a really good indicator of what the album sounds like. Listening to the record, I've only had the record a couple days, but any of these songs really would have made a good single. And I cannot say that about a lot of records that get sent to me. Was it difficult to pick those songs? And why did you pick these two tracks?
Yes.
The Hunter and Far Away.
Yeah, I can say it was not easy to pick singles, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we had also another title. So the first idea for title would be Destroyer, for instance. But then we thought, no, let's be a little bit more positive. So we just said, let's do another name, which is not a song on the album. And it's dominating. It's like the eagle is dominating the sky and everything, Coming back to your question about the singles, it was really hard, but in the end, we want to show that we are Primal Fear with the first release, Far Away. This is typical.
Yeah.
You have the twin guitars, the twin solos, you have the fast rhythm, and you have the melodic vocals. That's what we did in the year of 2000, for instance, with Nuclear Fire.
Yeah.
And in our opinion, that was a good way to open first door for this album and release it to the world,
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then we thought about this Hunter thing is a little bit more melodic to Far Away compared to Far Away. We thought it's also a strong statement to go out there and show that we still have the riffy guitars as well. And as you heard the album, there's so much more on it. And it's always tough if people judge the first songs. Oh, this is not going to be, if you don't hit their nerve or whatever you want to call it. We hit a lot of good nerves to say that there's so many good comments about it. But there's always people out there who are not happy with something. But I would really suggest to listen to the whole album and then make your opinion about it, which is absolutely fine with us if you have your opinion, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think that, there's albums I'm listening to right now. I just commented on a few of them that, sometimes the singles, sometimes bands miss on it. I think they miss a little bit more than they hit on the singles, but I think you picked the right ones. I mean, like The Hunter, for example. I mean, that's the first song in the album. I think that it's got a great chorus. There's a song on the record that had a chorus part that really caught me, and it's a song called I Am the Primal Fear. And that song is actually probably one of my favorite songs you guys have ever done.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. And, there's a lot. I always tell everybody, you got to give the album a chance, because sometimes singles may not, you have to put out the singles the way that things are done now. I mean, you're putting out 3 to 4 songs typically leading up to the release date. And I think you guys picked 2 pretty solid tracks for that, though. I think most of the reception was pretty positive that I saw. There weren't a lot of crazy comments, but
I mean, you always have these hardcore, fast, speedy heavy metal guys who, this is, itchy people are everywhere. Let's say it's 5%, so we're still good with 95.
No.
And like you say, I Am the Primal Fear. We keep this jewels somehow for the release September 5th. There has to be something left, right? So
it's Ralf Scheepers with us talking about the various songs on the album. So there are a lot of tracks that I really love in this album, and when I record this in this review, you can always reference back to it if you want once the album comes out. I know there's only a couple singles out now, but both of those singles, The Hunter and Far Away, are absolutely fantastic, and I think they did a great job picking what songs would go on the album, because honestly, most of these songs you could put as a single and people would like them. There's a song called I Am the Primal Fear. The Dead Don't Die is a track, and that's a track I forgot to mention to Ralph, I think. But I love that track. I love the chorus in it. But these songs are really cool in the fact that they are some of the catchiest tracks that the band has ever written. The songs are still heavy. The performance of everybody is still awesome. Ralph still sounds amazing on them. But if I'm going to kind of differentiate it from Code Red, I think Code Red had a little more aggressiveness to it, where Domination has a little less, but the choruses and the songs themselves are a little bit catchier, I think, than the previous one. What would I give it as a rating? Well, I gave Code Red a 10 out of 10 when it came out. This one gets a 10 out of 10. Obviously, I like it for different reasons, but again, Primal Fear delivers the goods. Delivering the goods. I'm not trying to use Judas Priest reference, but Primal Fear is delivering the goods on this again. They've put out an incredible album, as always. Everyone sounds great on it. Definitely 10 out of 10. I'll put a pre-order link for the album in the show notes. But that's what I think of the album. Lastly, and this is the last part of this segment, I want to talk about something Ralph and I talked about in the interview. I asked him about, because if you go and look at Ralf Scheepers online, the guy literally looks like he's ripped. Like you could put him in a bodybuilding contest. The guy's always hitting the gym. And I think there is a direct correlation between keeping your body healthy, between keeping your body in shape, and your voice sounding amazing. And I brought that topic up to him. And if and you always see people like him. Tim Ripper Owens is another one. If you look at Tim Ripper Owens, he hasn't really lost anything on his voice. You always see Tim with gym selfies quite a bit when he's back home, because he keeps his body in shape. He stays healthy. And I firmly believe, from experience as well, that it is very, very important to keep your body in shape and healthy. And Ralph and I talked about that. This is from our interview that we just did. Check out this clip.
You talked about doing this for 45 years. Obviously you were in Gamma Ray before this. You had Tyrant Pace. You sang on some various projects. I know you did like a lot of the backing vocals on the first Scanner album. I mean, you did this for a very long time. And one of the things that I see you talk about periodically on social media. You really preach a lot of positivity, which is great. But one of the things you talk about is every now and then you bring up, hey, you go to the gym, you work out, and health is a very important thing for you. And I've always said, I see like you and I see Tim Ripper Owens going to the gym, sharing photos, and I have to think that as a singer myself, that doing what you're doing is really why you're still able to perform the way that you are. Because I listened to this record, I mean, you could still hit pretty much all the notes that you did before. I listened to Tim sing. He's still just as good as he was 25 years ago. Does that have a big, when you hit the gym, I've always, one of the things they say too is that it's one of the more, it puts you in a great mood. If you're down and bummed out or you're depressed about something, you go in there and you feel better coming out of it. How much has that contributed to your longevity in doing this?
To be very honest, Tony, I don't think it's not linked if you are working out to the singing. I mean, you listen to Freddie Mercury, for instance, or also many other things, Ronnie James Dio and so forth. They were, in my opinion, never worked out really. But what it does is a certain way of discipline. It's what kind of discipline and how much work you put into something you can really compare, right? So I mean, Tim, buddy, he's also working out. We talked about it, and what a nice guy he is anyway. So, and I'm really glad that he's doing this. I like to watch his stories where he's still at it and so forth. I like that. And yeah, it takes a lot of discipline to keep going, because there's so many people start and then, oh my God, it's hard work. Yeah, of course it's hard work, and it's hard work to be a singer as well, on tour, for instance. And this is that's what I always compare a little bit. The more work you put into, the more the result will be positive in the end, right?
Yeah. Well, you guys aren't exactly singing music that's easy on the body either. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, to do what you do on tour, and to sing the way that you guys sing, or a lot of heavy metal singers in general, I mean, it's not easy on the body. I mean, it's pretty. I always used to say that the touring is the hardest on the drummer and the singer. That's pretty much where it goes. But you've done this at such a high level for a very, very long time, and I have to believe that you keeping your body, in shape and where it should be, it contributes to that.
It's about health. I mean, I had my phase when I was in the 90s where I had my rock and roll era as well. So I never say never to that I didn't do anything, but
yeah,
you find out on your own if this is good for you or not. And in the long term, of course, it's not. So, and you've got your certain responsibility towards your children you have, your family, and of course towards your body. And I want to live as long as I can, because I love life. I love to be love to be on that stage, and you can only do it if you're healthy, which is not intentionally always. Well, I have to be healthy. It's just a way of, it's a standard of life. It's just given, you know.
So if you listen to that segment, he talks about how being in shape is linked to his voice sounding great. I can attest to that from experience, because I did not sing for a long time, and I really wasn't in the best of shape when I sang on the Empires of Eden album, which, by the way, speaking of that, the previous Empires of Eden album, I think it was Architect of Hope, that's the name of the album. Ralf sang on that album, and I sang on the track after him. But anyhow, I had to sing again. I had to really get my body in shape to be able to perform, because I can tell you that I wasn't in the best of shape, and I had to get into shape to be able to sing again. Now, I've stayed on that workout routine since then, because it was kind of depressing to not be able to hit any notes that I used to hit when, because I wasn't in the best shape as far as my body is concerned. But that is very important, because if you look at people whose voices they've lost a lot of times they're not in the best shape physically. But Ralph and I, as you heard in that segment, we did talk about that. So anyhow, the album gets a 10 out of 10. And again, this is a band I will always speak highly of. Primal Fear, just like Iron Savior, who I'm going to talk about later in the show. This is a band that started when my radio show started. And I've just grown up with them as a young adult. Now I'm 47 right now. I think it was 19 or 20 when I ended up getting the first Primal Fear album, the self-titled. And it's a band that's probably, I can pretty much say, is always going to be with me as far as their music is concerned. There's always going to be a time where I'm going to want to listen to them. And I just have nothing but great things to say. Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.